So today, it's kind of bittersweet, like driving down and seeing it. You know, those times where I was like, you're in the driving. Yeah. I don't have to do that.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight. Please grab a seat. There's some chairs to the sides. If you're missing a chair, there's a pile of chairs in the back. Please grab a seat and we'll get started. Thank you. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. In case you don't know who I am or who we are, my name is Marco Palacios. I'm the president and co-founder of Pacific Hackers Association. Before we start, I always like to say, treat everyone with respect. We're a community. We're building a community, so please treat everyone with respect. There's no asshole rule here, so please. So what's Pacific Hackers? We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're in the mission of fixing some of the issues in the cybersecurity field, just for you. Diversity, number one. We want more women in the field, more people of color. We want to fix the education system, right? Because we know there's many programs out there, but they're not really teaching the right stuff. So they have to come and learn from here. And the HR system, right? We want to make the connection. So that's why every time you come here, you need to network with people, because that's honestly the only way you're gonna get the next job. Okay. And again, please keep networking. That's the only way. So we have a monthly meetup, pretty much sometimes 2 or 3 times a month. So register through our meetup page, because that's where you're gonna find out all the meetups that we have. Our upcoming meetup is gonna be September 11th. It's going to be here at Hacker Dojo, and it's going to be a joint meetup with Silicon Valley Cybersecurity Meetup, and Secure Warrior is going to provide a tournament. So if you're into AppSec, please come and join us. Again, we do a lot of collaborations with different entities. OWASP is one of them. We constantly do a lot of joint meetups. We also do it with WISIS, again, Silicon Valley Cybersecurity Meetup and stuff like that. We just made an announcement on Saturday. Our upcoming conference, November 2nd. November 2nd, for the ones who don't know, is Dia de los Muertos. It's a holiday celebrated in Mexico and heavily celebrated in California. So this year I wanted to do something different, being that it's falling on November 2nd. I want to remember all those hackers that passed away and provide that seed of something to make this world a safer place. Kevin Mitnick, Dave Kaminsky, Aaron Schwartz, you name it. So I want to take that time to celebrate with them. They're not here anymore, but they definitely contribute to the community. Okay. And yeah, so we have a call for papers. It's still open. Right now we have over 40 submissions. That's actually amazing, because usually about that time of the year, we're struggling with speakers. Well, not this year. We're still looking for sponsors. So if your company is looking to sponsor this conference, again, please let them know. The early bird for the tickets is out there until October 15th. Okay, so take advantage of that. I personally want to thank you, Hacker Dojo, for providing the space, and as always. And also I want to say thank you to Sneak for providing the amazing pizzas and sponsoring this event. Okay. Again, I always like to thank all our sponsors, present and past, because without them we couldn't make it. Okay. And as I always said, we need your help, and not always about money. Sometimes it's just about spreading the word, telling people who we are and what we do. If you have referrals, people looking to get into cyber, tell them that we have a place for them. If you're hiring, please let them know, let us know, so we can point you to the right direction. If you would like to share the knowledge, we're gonna increase our meetups. I know I already said we were doing 2 or 3. Probably gonna be about 5 or 6, just throwing out there. We're growing. And again, sponsoring. We cannot do it without you guys, so please help us. And again, join our community. We have a Discord community that we're slowly growing, and this is a place where we can share information. Sometimes, I mean, people ask questions about on a project they're currently doing, and they just posted it there, and the community helps them to solve that question. Okay, so please join our Discord. And if you need to get a hold of me, some people are taking pictures, so stay here for a second. If you need to get a hold of me, email is the best way to do it. I'm also on Twitter or X. I'm heavily on LinkedIn, or on Discord. You can find me as Mark. And I just want to say thank you once again for coming out tonight and joining our community. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Brennan. He's going to talk about OWASP.
I thought I deleted my notes. Can you hear me? Okay. So, welcome to the August meetup. My name is Brennan. I'm one of the leaders of the OWASP Bay Area chapter. We have these events about once a month. We often partner with Marco and Pacific Hackers, so thank you again for helping us out with that. Thank you to Sneak for sponsoring. Good job on the pizza and the drinks. We always run out of food here for some reason, but I don't think we're going to do that today. So, but don't feel we have to leave any after. Thanks to all of our sponsors, chapter sponsors, all of our hosts. I didn't realize we had slides. Okay. So, we can't do these things again without the sponsors. And if you want to figure out what's the best way to sponsor us, chapter in the community, become a host, become a sponsor, even better, become a speaker. If you want to get your talk accepted at Pacific conferences, one of the best ways that you can do that is to have a track record speaking at meetups, to make TikToks inside of a company, work your way out, get comfortable with the microphone in your hand. Don't do this. Still a bit of practice helps a lot. Okay. I want to echo the code of conduct that Marco showed there. It takes a lot of effort to come up here and speak and share some of your work with people, so please be respectful to the speakers, to the other people here. Remember that when you're asking questions, 16 questions, please follow 5 speakers. We've got loads of time to help. 2 speakers, we're going to 3. Okay, what else we got here? Who's at their first meetup? I see a lot of new faces. Thank you for coming. And, this is also season meeting. You've all seen some familiar faces as well. We come here fairly often, so you should know the way at this point. Okay. Okay, so 2 speakers tonight. First of all, we've got Javier from Steve. I see he's got some swag there. He's going to show off some fancy socks and things like that. He is going to talk to us about stranger. We'll get into that. Maybe we'll have time for a bit of a demo. Looking at some OWASP content as well, which is awesome. And then Wolfer from
Rocky Mason.
Oh, what?
Rocky Mason.
What is that?
He's a comedian.
No.
He jokes about stranger danger.
Oh, good.
And Wolfer's going to talk to us about business application. All right. Any questions before we get going? All right, let's get into it. Have you heard?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll read the word. Yeah. Oh, okay, so you have to put it on. Yeah. I know it's coming on. No. I know, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, dawn, so the feels is. Then next week. Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Javier. On Zoom call meeting. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Javier. And this meetup is very dear for me because I've been a hacker since I was a kid. And also I love security. Yeah, I think that's what we put it. And so I like also fun, probably you never met someone like me, and you will see in a minute why. And I like to start things, well, you can hear my accent, I'm Spanish, okay? And when I'm in Spain, they say that I have a weird accent because I live so many years in different countries that I lost my Spanish and I mix it with other languages. Anyway, we're going to start with a game. So we have a game called Can You Spot the Lie? But maybe some of you have heard this game before. And basically, you have from 1 to 11, you have one of them is a lie. You have to guess which one is the lie. And you only have one guess per person, okay? And let's see, the first one I'll give this wonderful sunglasses, purple sunglasses. All right, if nobody says anything, I'll ask people. Right, what's your name?
Neloy.
Neloy, so which one are you guys?
So I haven't read through all of them, but I am gonna say number 4.
Yeah.
Number 4, no, that's correct, I started very early with hacking. And actually, I not only hack computers, I also hack anything,
Oh no, 4 was the ran a Spartan race.
Oh, the Spartan race?
Yeah.
I did run a Spartan race in flip-flop.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, okay. What's your name?
Raj.
Okay, all right, what is your guess?
Number 11.
10.
Number 11, I've been 5 feet away from the lava in Hawaii when I live in Hawaii.
10.
No?
Number 10?
Number 10, that's correct. You have sunglasses. So I've been doing body pump and coma for many years, and I actually did the certification, but I have not. I did the instructor training, but I'm not certified yet. All right. Anyway, so that's about me. Also,
As a job, I work for SNIP, which is a security company. Basically, we are specialized in developer security, and that's why this talk is very relevant. And I'm a solution engineer based in the Bay Area. We don't have an office here, so I work remote from home in San Carlos.
I like that opening.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with something. Okay, so this one you have to be interactive. How many of you are developers? Raise your hand. Okay, 2, 3. All right. From these categories, developer, ops, or security. How many of you are consider ops more than developers? Okay, 2, 3, and sec. How many of you are sec? Oh, okay, we have a majority here. So that's usually because this meetup is for DevSecOps, okay? But if you go to any other conference, like AWS or whatever conference you go, you know, most of the people are developers. You know, we are a minority in the security industry. How many of you know Jim Kim? He wrote, yeah, okay. He wrote an amazing book about DevOps, one of the first ones. And, you know, I've been, in my previous job, I was a developer evangelist for DevOps. I tried to move many companies to adopt, you know, developer practice to automate everything. And I think it's amazing. You know, you can do 10 times the many things as with one person as, yeah, if you use DevOps, than you can do with, with a large team. My specialty is I try to optimize everything. You know, I have a talk called Optimize Your Life, actually, that I explain. It's a fun talk that I once explained how I optimize 3 things in my life that are extraordinary, I guess. Like when I was a kid, I played computer games and I had the high score records in all the games I played. And no one was able to beat me ever, you know. The second thing I did was I lived in Hawaii and I surfed with sometimes, you know, when you surf in a beach, you know, there are pro surfers. And I was able to make a system, you know, to get waves even if there is a pro surfer, which is if somebody surfs here, anybody surfer here, no, that is very challenging. You go to a place that is a pro surfer, you go home because he gets all the waves, okay? And the third thing I did is I optimized a long bike commute, which was 30 miles. My bike commute was 30 miles each way, from 3 hours to less than 1, okay? So that's a way that you can, you know, if you're a hacker, you can hack anything, you know, including your own life, all right? Well, anyway, the only way that you can scale security is by giving the right tools to the developers, you know, to the majority, because you cannot do everything even if you are a Superman, all right? So that's very important. And one of the things we are going to see today is how you can use a methodology that you can use to find the right tools, to find the right framework, and then how you can educate people. So the first thing you have to do is, you know, we have developer, we have ops, and we have dev people and DevSecOps. The first thing you have to do is bring everyone to a room like here, all right? You bring food and then everybody comes, especially if the food is good and is free. And what do you do after you have everyone in a room? So one person has to take the initiative and say, what do we do? All right. Yeah, so one of the things you can do is, first, you know, when you want to do security, you can pick a security framework. You know, reinventing the wheel is really challenging and it takes way too long. Many companies decide to do it that way, but I don't recommend it. You know, OWASP has been for more than 20 years. You know, it's been an open source project that has been very helpful in security. And I'll explain a couple of frameworks that we have. Then I'm going to also show a way that you can evaluate tools. You know, there are many tools in the market. So OWASP, for example, has a benchmarking tool project, which is open source, that you can use to evaluate any tools for security, you know, for vulnerabilities especially. So in that way, you know, whenever somebody makes a code or something, you can compare with the tool you use and decide which one is better and benchmark it a little bit, which I find is very useful. Because usually in sales guys, they paint everything very rainbowy. Everything is awesome until you get to try it out in a real environment. And the third thing that is very important is to evangelize and educate people. And that's something that you are doing today by just being here, all right? So it's very important, you know, if you have a great project, great ideas, but you don't tell the people how to use it, you don't make champions that can evangelize to other teams, because you cannot do everything again. You know, you have to ensure that you find people who are good with other people and then can carry the message to others, all right? So that's something that I learned early in my life. You know, I'm not great communicating things to CEOs. So I will find something in between, somebody in between me and the CEO. I will tell my idea and then he will pitch it to the CEO. All right. And that's how in my previous company, I got a lot of things done. So one, I worked in 4 offices and I have 2 things I always accomplish. Nobody will guess it, but if somebody gets it, I give a sock. All right. Anybody guess? If you can guess one of those 2 things I accomplished? Anyone? Okay. What's your name? Okay. What? Guess one. No. Well, I'm going to say because it's very hard to guess. The first thing I got is a shower. In all the offices I work, I got a shower because I always bike to work. And when you bike 30 miles, you know, you are very sweaty. All right. So I have my strategies, but that's one thing. The second thing that I accomplished in all the offices I work is to have a good espresso machine. Because I love coffee. So I built a coffee club and everything. I managed to get a good espresso machine. Anyways, you can accomplish anything if you have a good strategy and if you identify people who can help you. Right. So but you know, here you get socks. They don't weigh enough. But I like to throw things. So you have to be awake when I talk because I used to throw things. Okay? I need something heavier. Next time, Maggie, we get something a little bit heavier that I can throw all the way to you. All right. So let's start with picking up a security framework. You know, that's one very important thing when you want to bring security into a company. Is just don't reinvent the wheel. Find out what exists outside that works, that is proven, that big companies have adopted, and take it, or at least try it out. So here you have some of the, let me see if I can minimize. Here are some of the frameworks that are very popular. You have NIST, you know, OWASP, this one, well, anyway, there are many that are available. You know, I'll share the slides and you can search, Google it, you know, security frameworks and you find most of them. But because this is a OWASP meetup, I decided to show you the OWASP software assurance maturity model, which is one of the most popular ones and has been doing for a long time. So the focus is in application security, okay? So other frameworks, they have a more wider range of security, but this one is focused on application security, which is basically very useful here in the Bay Area because we have a lot of companies developing apps and tech companies. It's one of the flagship projects at OWASP, and you know, it's prescriptive in nature as opposed to other frameworks which are more yeah. Here you can see the mission of the project, but it basically is, you know, to help with software assurance and the security posture. Here is the framework that you have. You know, basically this is I wanted to summarize the whole framework in one slide, and this is the one that I think, so I hate the slides. You know, I usually prefer to just do a demo or just talk something with a whiteboard or something like that, because people usually sleep when you have too many slides. So this is the whole framework is summarized here more or less, and here the URL where you can find this picture and everything about the OWASP framework. But basically, you can see the different business functions and how the security practice apply for each of one, right? So when you evaluate a tool, you know, you have to ensure the tool covers as many of those business functions and security practices. So this is a good table to have as a reference. For example, the company I work for, SNIC, which means so now you know, was the acronym of so now you know. because we try to tell developers about vulnerabilities. And after using our product, now they know how many bugs and vulnerabilities they have in the code. So you can see, where the different areas that that tool is helping you. So just use whatever tool you use, just ensure that when you evaluate a tool, it covers the most boxes that you can, all right? So that's very important. I'm not going to go in detail. This is just for your reference. Okay, so the second step is how to evaluate a security tool. I mean, once you know what area you want to secure, in this case, we are going to focus on application security. You have to evaluate the tool. And it's very hard. You can, most people, they ask colleagues and friends who work at more successful companies than yours, or more well-known, like, the Googles, Facebook, and all the top tech. They think they do better job than the small ones, which is not always true. But usually you ask people, what tool do you use? Is it good? What are the bad things of the tool, and so on. And if you ask enough people, you will find out that no tool is perfect, okay? All the tools, they have pros and cons. So that's why the OWASP project has something called the OWASP benchmarking tool, which I can, here is the URL for the project, that is within the OWASP.org, the project benchmark. So the project benchmark, it's, I'll summarize it, but you can read it there. It's basically 2 GitHub repos, okay? I think I have it here, okay. 2 GitHub repos. The first one is the utilities to run the tools. And the second one, it's a Java application that has many vulnerabilities that you can use it as benchmark. Okay, so you run whatever tool you want. I'm going to show an example of running with 2 different free tools that many of you can try today. The 2 tools I'm going to show in a moment. You can just sign up without a credit card and try it out. So you can run exactly what I'm running here on your computer. And if you want, don't do it now, otherwise you will not be able to pay attention. But once you get the slides, try it at home. And if we have time, I like to do like a hacking workshops. I can tell you how to use the tool and then use it to benchmark the tool you use in your company, and then tell me the score that you get. Because I'm a very curious person. I always want to know which tool is better. Okay, so it's very important, when you have a hacker community or something, that you share, the good practices with the other people, and that's part of the education program that you have. So anyway, these are the few commands that you have to do to run the tool. The first one is to clone the utility room, which is you can see like a Maven application. So basically you clone the repo, go to the repo and run the Maven install, right? Super simple. The second one, you go back, you clone the benchmark Java, which is a Java app, go there, remove any results that are there from previous that are stored in the repo, and then go to the benchmark Java repo so that you can run whatever tool you want there. So this is super simple. It takes less than 5 minutes. All right. So now that we have done the setup, it's really quick. We have to just run it. And running it is super simple. The first one, you have to have the tool you want to use. Usually this is meant to test command line tools. Install on your machine. So most of the security tools, they have a CLI that you just type brew install CLI name, or you can just do a curl and download the binary or something like that. But basically, you just save it wherever you want in your machine, so you can run it from this directory. Right? You put it in the path, and then you can run it. And then you run the command to do a scan, send the JSON results to a file, and you can run as many tools as you want to evaluate. And once you have all these different JSON output with the results of the tool has found, then you run this command to create the scorecard for each tool. So basically what the tool does is it runs a command to check the JSON output of each tool and then creates a scorecard of how many vulnerabilities each tool has found and other things. All right. So here is, for example, there is a tool very popular called SendGrep. How many of you use SendGrep? All right, awesome, cool.
Their sponsor.
Yep. So SendGrab is a great tool. Thanks for sponsoring. And basically, you know, to test this, I just went to the SendGrab website. I signed up for a free account. I downloaded the CLI and I run it on my machine. So whenever you evaluate a tool, you know, you have to run it at least twice. Many tools, the first time that you run them, you know, they download, you know, files that they need and the stuff that they cache. So the first run, for performance reasons, you can usually throw it away. But it's also good to know because, you know, as a reference, how long does it take the first run versus second, third, and so on. And subsequent run, they should be faster because already have all the information that you need, for example, the database or whatever things. So you can see here, anybody knows this command time? It's a Unix command, you have it in Mac OS and most Linux distributions. Basically, you put it before a command you want to run, and when it ends, it tells you how many seconds it took to run. So the simplest thing you can do to benchmark something, okay? And you can try it out, you can put time, sleep 3, and it should output 3 seconds, all right? So that's very simple. So what I do here is, this is the sendgrep command, you know, sendgrep CI minus code to scan code, minus JSON to output JSON in SARI format. And then I send the output to this file, right? Very simple. So I run it, and when it finished, it tells me 3 minutes 18, right? So you basically go back, run this exactly same command, and the second time was faster, and you know, it was maybe like a 30 seconds faster, something like that. 2 minutes 49, right? So you repeat the same with all the tools you want to test. In this case, with the sneak command, I did exactly the same. You can see time, sneak code. The sneak code for testing code. Test is the command that sneak has for testing. Minus JSON to output JSON. And same, I send it to a file. You could see the first time it took 21 seconds and the second time 7 seconds. Okay, so you will do that with all the tools you want to evaluate. And this is, you know, you have to take it with a grain of salt because it depends of the machine you are running in. Of course, if you have a very powerful machine, it will go faster with a super fast internet connection, much faster than if you use an old laptop with dial-up. Okay, nobody has those, but just an example. So this is no way of measuring performance. It just gives you a rough idea. Okay, so when you compare different tools, you can get an idea. So this is the output of the benchmark, OWASP benchmark tool. And this is a graphic. I mean, I'll show the PDF that generates, you know, this is the main thing that illustrates the tool. And you can see basically the closest to this corner, the better the tool, all right? And the closest to the top, the better the tool. So you can see this will be worse than guessing and so on. So this is, you can see the different things that the OWASP benchmarking tool gave for SendGrep. And this is another word for sneak, but basically it's very similar output. So you can see the different percentages. And again, run it with your tools that you use and compare your tool with other ones so you can get an idea of how long it takes, how many vulnerabilities they find, and so on. So it's a great tool for being able to evaluate software framework or software tool, right? So if anybody's interested, I can airdrop the PDFs or send it maybe to Marcos and he can pass it around. The third thing that you have to do is, again, evangelize and educate. This is something that is relatively cheap, you know, it's much better, much cheaper than buying a tool. Usually a tool is like thousands of dollars. And evangelize and educate, you know, it's something that any company should do proactively, and the return on investment is huge. So I'm, you know, a fan of evangelizing and educating, and in fact, many of my vacations, I go to third world countries to work with kids on education, right? Yeah. So I think it's one of the best investments you can do in your life to learn something new, and I try to learn something new every day. Okay. All right. So one of the things that we are going to do now is demo. I'm going to show you, for example, one tool that I'm familiar with that I use on my work, how you can use it to find vulnerabilities in code and yeah, and then how you can fix them. How many of you use VS Code? All right, a lot. Okay, so I'll use VS Code for the time. So if you want to run the demo on your laptop, the first thing you have to do is go to you go to sneak.io. There you have it. This happens to be the company I work with, but you can do it with any other tool. But I'm just going to show this because I have it available to me. Yeah.
I think we were just sharing the PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Let me share my desktop. What about now? Does it show in the Zoom? Or if someone's, yeah, I think it shows. All right, so you will go to sign up here. Well, I'm kind of logged in, but if you click sign up, there is no credit card or anything. You can just connect with GitHub, and basically you will be on the screen where you can add projects. And I can add for many things, but the easiest will be to use either GitHub or the command line interface. So if you go to GitHub, basically what you can do is, this is my GitHub username, and I have only a few projects. So you will select the project you want to import, and that's it. It will import it. It takes a couple of minutes, and once it's imported, you will see under projects, all the ones. So this one is also, I think, part of the OWASP for another use shop. Is one of these security vulnerability projects that you can use, like the benchmark Java that we saw before, that has tons of vulnerabilities. So whatever tool you use, it can basically find more things. So this is for open source. It tells you all the different vulnerabilities you can fix and so on. But let me show you how this looks in VS Code. Right, so let me see. Yes, you can do this. Okay, great. I'm showing this one. So this is your VS Code. I have a project here with the use shop. You can see here. Let me close everything. So basically, we have here this project that has all sorts of files. We have Angular, Java files, we have all sorts of things. So in order to run this, most of the vendors, they have extensions for the IDEs. So I search for a sneak and they have one. So I click install and that's it. Once I click it, you can see here the open source security will scan automatically the projects I have added, imported, in this case from GitHub. And you can see this is for open source. How many vulnerabilities it found in open source? So we have here SQLize, for example. And if you can see here, if I mouse over, you can see I'm using version 5.22.3, and that has many vulnerabilities. So if I upgrade to 6.91, I'll be able to fix this vulnerability. If I go to 6.21.2, I can fix more. So usually I want to go to the highest one. So 6.29, I think that's the highest one. So then in my case, I will go here 6.29.0, I think that one. Yeah, 6.29.0. So I will save this file, commit it to GitHub, and once I merge, the change into my main branch, I will have not only one vulnerability, but probably many more because this library probably has dependencies. So I'll probably fix 10 or 15 bugs at once. Some of the tools, they give you that visibility with the dependency tree. In this case, you can see my application has 913 dependencies, which is a lot, and those are in all nested in all different levels. So you want to ensure the tool you use, it scans in all the levels of dependencies that you have. Many projects they will have 2, 3 levels. In this case, this one, for example, if I click on the tree here, you can see, for example, let me see, Express JWT, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. You can see, for example, base 64 was nested 5 levels down. So wherever, if I fix my version of the Express JWT, I'm going to fix all these together. It will be maybe, 6 vulnerabilities and so on. So you want to be, try to fix first the ones that are in the top level, and then you get many down the tree fixed. Let me see what else. So as a developer here, for example, the benefit of having something in the IDE is I don't have to go outside of the environment I'm used to. I don't need to learn a new tool. And whatever you fix in the local machine before pushing to the source code repository is way, way cheaper and effective for any company, okay? Once vulnerability goes into the source code management and into the CI/CD pipeline, and even if it gets, the farther it goes down the software development life cycle, the more expensive, time-consuming, and resources it takes to fix it. So, the paradigm that we have today is to shift left, move the security all the way left to the developer, if you can, to the IDE. In this case, the moment I save the file to this, it's going to get a scan, and then I'll say, oh, I have a bug here. And how do I fix it? So I go here, check, or mouse over, find out the right version I have to put, and just fix it. And for code is the same. So this is for open source. If I check code, this will analyze my code. And you can see, for example, this one here has a vulnerability of server-side request forgery. So how do I fix this? This will explain me all the details of the bug, how I can prevent it, and the data flow, how it got into my application. You can see like 15, 16, 20, and so on. And then here I can see examples of similar projects, fix the same issue. So you can see 1, 2, 3 different examples, and I can figure out probably if I have some idea about this programming language, with the 3 examples, I can figure out really easy how to fix it. Ideally, you also want to use that. Go ahead.
You can start that, go ahead.
Yeah. So ideally, you want also to benefit of AI. Most of the people here now use. How many of you use some kind of Copilot or something to generate code? Few people. So that the code. AI is awesome. It helps a lot to fix code, to write code, and so on. But 40%, according to a study, 40% of the code that AI generates has issues. Okay, so you need to scan it after it's generated. And sometimes not all the tools are perfect. If you know a good programmer that can do a good code review, check it out just to verify the tool is good. Okay. So some of the tools, for example, Sneak has a tool called Deep Code AI, which basically uses code samples, like I showed before from open source projects, and they try to take the code examples and put it into the code so you don't have to write it. Okay, so it will create the code, and then I'll have a link here that it will copy and paste into my code. So I will have to click once and it will fix it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, now, so I used to sell a tool like this. It was by Digital, which was Synopsys, and then now they're called Black Duck. How do you compare yourself to what they do, and how are you different?
I don't want to make this into a sales pitch, so I'm not going to compare this with other tools. I'm just trying to educate people, to things that you should look when you find a tool. Right? A good question. Thank you. I really try to be impartial. the thing that I work for SNCC doesn't mean that I try to be impartial, okay? So whatever, all the tools are good, try it out, use tools like benchmark and different, Google it, for example, difference between this tool and this other. Okay, and then you can see the pros and cons and ask people who use both tools and what is the one better than the other. Okay, sorry. All right, so that's, how are we doing with time? Very smart. Good. Yeah, so this is, for example, how you can use a tool that basically helps you fix the code. Because one of the most important things that you have is once you find a vulnerability, how to fix it. And you have to fix it for good. Okay. So the important thing that you need to find out is find a tool that is popular, provides good results, run quickly, and has good reviews. People is like a market leader or something, and then provide you as many features from the OWASP framework that we saw before as possible. So many boxes as you can. This is just an example, but you can do this with SendGrid or with any other tool that you want. Yeah, I don't want to show a lot of things about SNCC because I work for SNCC. I want to make this impartial, but yeah, basically find a tool that helps you do your job and save you time. And because time is the most important thing that we have in life, You can buy anything else, but you cannot buy time. So if you can save time, for me, is the most important. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Can you cover all languages?
What?
Open source and all languages.
You want me to cover open source?
No, you surface open source and all other languages.
Yeah, so there are different tools that cover different things, like for example, open source, which is a part of dependencies, which is what I showed here. Then other tools help with something called SAS, like to scan the code in the different programming languages, which is what I was showing here. So for example, this tool will scan all the different programming languages, and it will help me fix the issues that it found, the tool. And then I have another one for configuration issues in terms of, in this case, my project also uses Terraform, which is infrastructure as code. And it can tell me, for example, best practices that my Terraform file is not following. If you have whatever tool you use, try to see if the tool can fit the most boxes as you can. So if you use infrastructure as code, if you use containers, registry, Kubernetes, try to use a tool that does the most things if you can, because it's always there's a learning curve for learning any tool. So if you can have one that can solve many things, there's a shorter learning curve. So at this point, maybe we can do a Q&A, and you guys have another mic, so people can pass it around. Yeah, awesome.
One of the things
Yeah.
is, one of the things does SNCC do.
You can follow up.
I know you went through it, but did you
Yeah.
go through every single one of those 3 boxes?
Yeah, so I don't want to make this into a sales pitch, but we are focused on developer security. We make tools to help developers, scan code, open source, containers, infrastructure as code, things like that. Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned OWASP benchmark project.
Yeah.
Is there any results already? Because all the tools should be like, if I run them on my computer, on your computer, it should be similar result. Can I see like results on all the tools?
Yeah, so I only had the 2 free tools, and I don't want to compare many tools just to make one worse than the other. I just tested with 2 tools I have available yesterday. And this is, for example, the scorecard that you get, the PDF, that you get generated by the tool. And so you can see here, there is more information. So basically, this is all that the tool provides. You can see command line command injection, you know, secure cookie, LDAP injections. You can see all the different categories and how many each tool finds and so on. And that's how they get benchmarked. Yeah. You can run this with any CLI tool.
Just follow up on that, because OWASP is an open source, not the foundation, can't compare vendors.
Exactly.
It's for one vendor.
Yeah, I also was very curious. I was trying to find where is a place I can see all the tools benchmark, and it is not. You know, and also, even if it's one, you know, tomorrow will not be accurate because the tools, they all keep, you know, improving. And one tool can be here tomorrow and the next one day, another one can be better. So my recommendation is do the test whenever you need the tool, whenever you evaluate, run it, and try to run it in the environment that you are planning to run it in production. If it's AWS or Google Cloud, whatever cloud, just to get a feeling of the performance and, you know, the reachability and so on. Good question. What's your name?
Alex?
Alex? Thank you. Anybody else?
So I wanted to know
What's your name?
hi, I'm Darshan,
Okay.
and I wanted to know what is the rate of false positives and false negatives in each of these categories?
Yeah, so, you know, that is very hard, you know, the benchmark tool. This is the information that it gives, you know. Not sure if it has a category for false positives. Yeah, that's something that is, yeah, FP here. Let me see, false positives. Yeah, here you have false positive. You can see command injection. So this column tells you the false positive. Okay. So, yeah. So the OWASP benchmarking also tells you. But again, this is very limited. It's a Java project. You know, it may be different in another programming language. So my recommendation, whatever your programming language does, you know, just get, you know, a sample project without the vulnerabilities for that programming language and test the tool on that, you know, on that repo that you have with the programming language you want. Good question. Anybody else?
Thank you, Hunter.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Right, if you want to stretch your legs, get a fresh air, you got a couple minutes before winter starts.
So just open Zoom, and here's the invite. Here's our Zoom. Yeah.
So there is a,
Connect to the network.
yeah,
So
so, yeah, no worries. The address, HackerDojo free. Oh, that's, so go back to the SSIDs and choose, HackerDojo free. There you go, that one. And then, the password is, HackerDojo, all one, lowercase, all, everything. Lowercase? Yeah, HackerDojo. Mhm. That's it, just. Yeah, mhm. Right, and the Zoom link, yep, or is it? If you use open like Zoom, I don't think you have to install it, you can just join from the web. Unless you have the application, do you have the application? To join, and the meeting is 34-132-76-06. 642. And then, yeah. You can do turn, yeah, that one. Turn my, don't connect with audio, yes. And yep. To join, and then the it's 09 06 53. And I'm gonna make you a co-host. Okay, so we can plug it in first before you you can share, then plug in the computer, so you can test your everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was wondering about these. So somebody like Lisa. I don't know. I think they're finding that. Years later. I'm literally like, that's not that much. Yeah. Yeah, I'll look, I mean, like right now. Just curious. I had to go. Boss. Somebody did a boss. Like right now. So yeah, that's like. Hello. All right, everybody settle down. Speaker number 2.
Hello, everyone. So I thought it would be sandwiched between two speakers. If having a bit more time and being at kind of the end of the day, I hope it's gonna leave us enough time for discussion. So I'll just go ahead and start and talk about business applications governance. Can you hear me back there? Yeah, sure. All right, thank you. So we will be talking about, and someone I just talked to asked me about stacks. And for many people with experience in engineering, they think about stacks. They sometimes think about SBOM, what are the libraries I'm using, what are the frameworks that I'm using, and so on. But we'll see that stacks come in all sizes and shapes and for teams. And rabbit hole goes very deep. And the next thing I wanted to show, I have an intro slide about myself, but then I was caught by surprise by Javier's kind of amazing background and achievements and everything, so I had to plug this in. I just had to, so Javier, amazing stuff. I know that it's kind of, I'm not worthy. So great background and in DevOps and otherwise in personal achievements that you have. So, but I did have to leave mine as well. And the reason I do that is not about my own, a lot of just generally detailed information about the background, but just sharing that this is a community. Many of us have come from different diverse backgrounds personally, professionally, and had a lot of experience. And I'm open, I love discussions about many of the topics that you see here. I picked those 3 points in time because I think for me, or from my perspective and related to my discussion, this was pivotal to some of the major big trends that we see in infrastructure and how businesses build applications, this is what it's all about. We don't run DevOps and we don't develop code just because it's neat and it's fun. We actually need to do some work. And these are some observations that I have. So I served some time leading products and security products at companies like Cisco and Sophos, and I've seen the transformation of everything living in the data center, and the security teams were the gatekeepers, but it's not, it's changed, it's gone, and maybe some of it still remains, but in many ways it's gone. And then we've seen cloud, and those of you who remember at least 10 years plus, we had SaaS, IaaS, infrastructure as a service, but normally everyone is just calling it cloud services right now. And we have PaaS, platform as a service, not used so much as a term, but actually it has transformed. And we've seen changes in the cloud with the rise of CSPM. I was fortunate to lead the product in the company that invented CSPM and see it kind of firsthand. We have to talk to people. The security team talked about the cloud and say, oh yeah, you have to talk to the cloud guy, the cloud person. You know, you all remember all that. So things have changed. But my last couple of companies that I was at also showed me there's other trends that some people don't fully realize, and
it just makes the technical depth or sometimes the security feature sets that we need, even more, interesting for us. So here's an observation. I just came back. How many of you have been to Black Hat a couple of weeks ago? Right. So, yeah, we probably have seen each other. Maybe we did shake hands, but it was really interesting. 19,000 people, so many security products. Just a few months before that, we had RSA. I don't know how many vendors we have in security space, but I would say between 1,500 and 3,500, something like that. And if you're talking to some security leaders at enterprises, you hear that they already have a lot of security products. I don't know how much security product or how many security products you see in your organizations, but it's a lot. And there's a reason why it's a lot, but it still seems to be not enough. Because we have an increase in breaches, increase in data leak problem, and so on. Another fun fact that some people don't necessarily know, especially if they're working in code or they're not doing business analysis of other aspects of the business and focus only on security, is that a very large percentage of what we call knowledge worker, so non-IT smart people, are actually doing development work, although we're not calling it development or engineering work, because the tools are not what we are used to in our tech stacks. These are not code libraries, whether it's open source or licensed. These are not services running in a cloud infrastructure and automated. These are other tools that sometimes we are surprised to learn about. And that's going to increase. Some people call these type of categories of code is no code and no code. And we'll talk a lot about that and how those stacks look. Now, I want to ask a question. I know some people don't like raising their hands. How many of you are with the background of working in different SecOps or whether color teams, red, blue, purple? Anyone in SecOps or other user operations? Let's see a few hands. So a question that I have for you, if you want to share, or we will just talk about it. How many times you have CVs, you have a lot of findings from all those tens of security tools that you have, but you don't really know what's important, how to prioritize, because you don't know the business context. You don't know what was built there. Is this an internal tool? Is it an external tool? What are all the components? Even the SBOM, if it exists, is not complete. So we have a lot of findings. This is our life. And anyone here is from the GRC team or with background working with GRC teams? Governance, risk, and compliance. So interestingly, in most cases, governance, risk, and compliance is not necessarily important to the security team. Sometimes it's generally IT. Sometimes it's legal. Sometimes it's even finance. But they have a very important task. They need to figure out or get information from all the other teams that they don't necessarily have direct influence on, or even they just need to nag them all the time for information, and those teams sometimes don't have the information to provide. So we don't have a lot of hands, but for a few people, how much time you have to spend chasing people, and then it's not the right person, and they refer to someone else. But this person already left the company, and this was an outside developer. This was an engineering consultant. The other one was an agency developing something for the marketing team. It happened all the time. And then you pass along lists of applications and ask them, do you use those tools? What do you do with those tools? What data do these tools access? And then the director approves, yeah, we're using it for lead enrichment. And that's it. That's all the information that we have, if we even have it. How many of you are in the AppSec? Doing the information, the security for the applications themselves. So quite a few. Then some of the things that we need to take care of is the tools that we are managing would be customer-facing tool or partner-facing tools. This could be a commercial tool, this could be a mobile application, this could be a website or multiple tools like that. But it also could be different types of internal tools that we're developing. And you need to do similar type of chasing. You don't necessarily always have the full architecture background and understand how things are connected. So we do have findings. how do we prioritize? What do we have to do? What is impactful and what not? Because just the CV doesn't necessarily indicate the risk. Anyone here working in finance or insurance? In a finance and insurance company? Okay, so people who work in finance and insurance company, and they might be in one of the other teams that I mentioned, but in those specific industry, some of them are aware of DORA or the Digital Operational Resilience Act. I always forget all the words in the acronym. But this is a standard of how to manage or framework and guidance in European Union and anyone doing business in Europe, especially financial institutions, but a lot of it's relevant also for many non-European companies. And of course, companies that are non-European, but do business in specific types of industries. And that has new regulations about how to manage your supply chain, how to enumerate or collect the data of ICT, and so on. So there's a lot of information that is important. Now, from this, I'm segueing into the supply chain questions. And what on the screen is covered a little bit by the bar, but this means supply chain risk maps are under-documented. So I hinted in the background of some of the challenges of chasing information and mapping it, but this is what that means statistically when you look at penetrations. And this is coming from an interesting website called Comparitech. This is sponsored by JFrog, another awesome tool that many of you probably know. And what they're looking at, what you see at the top here, is the successful attacks from the supplier perspective, and at the bottom, the customer's perspective for us, if someone in our supply chain was attacked. And here are the important notes that I take from this. First of all, if my supplier was hacked and breached, I don't care exactly what happened there. It doesn't really matter. It means that I was impacted, and now I have to be in a fire drill and figure out what happens, how things are connected. Am I impacted? Do I have enough cyber insurance coverage? Can I stack the cyber insurance coverage with the insurance that I'm getting from the supplier? So a lot of us that are doing engineering, deployment, codes, whatever we do on the technical aspects are usually not exposed to that. But when things happen, it's hectic, it's crazy, and everyone is not sleeping and working like crazy. And that can happen a couple of times a year in most organizations with at least something like that that we need to handle. And if you look at from the target perspective and our perspective, the important things to know is what was usually targeted. And what we see is systems that include personal data. But it's important for us to know, do we really know everywhere that personal data for our customers, for our employees, for our candidates, or whatever that may be, where it resides? And processes, and these are all the tools that I'm talking about that are participating in new types of stacks. A lot of the times they're with automations, and these are the new processes that we have. So if I need to figure that out, I need to find someone who, or somewhere where it's documented, how does the architecture look like? Who's the choke that I need to show? I need to show. You know, right? It's a lot. It's very stressful, and it adds friction.
What is the largest area, the purple area? What type of attack is that on the top?
This one?
Yeah,
Software engineering, but this is for our supplier.
right.
So we are using, let's say, and I'm making a name randomly, but it's a company that had a breach Trello, for example. So there were a breach. It could have been the start of the attack, could have been the software engineering, someone, an email masquerading because hijacking a domain, whatever that was, made it look real. Someone disclosed their credentials, or have drive-by infection, and we got the credentials through this app.
And
But
how
it
about
was-
the turquoise one on the
Yeah.
left?
Which one? This one?
Yeah. What,
This one is
Turquoise.
proprietary code.
okay,
Okay, so the target, the supplier had proprietary code, but it's not exactly clear what happened there. But it could be things like code injection or modification of code that exists at this type of product.
okay, how about the turquoise?
SolarWinds, for example, is a good example.
How about the turquoise?
Turquoise here,
Yeah,
open source code.
okay.
And we talked about that, but we scan for CVs in open source. We cannot scan for CVs in our own code, but we can identify other risks in proprietary code with vast and SaaS tools. And one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons, a third, the attack was successful impacted us because we have a trust relationship. We cannot operate alone. We need to deploy tools and we need to buy technologies from different types of vendors. Another interesting resource to track is the GDPR enforcement tracker. I was actually my co-founder, Michael, who is here, found it, and I was very amused when I looked at the findings here. So what this tracks is recent fines. So it's not just only the breach, but actually the outcome of the fine. Sometimes there's an investigation, and until someone is given the fine, there could be a gap. By the way, some of the biggest fines are $1.2 billion for Google, I think. Meta, sorry. And just last week, Uber landed with a $340 million in breach. And these are large companies.
What
But
does CMS stand for? Which tool was that?
This is called the enforcement tracker of the GDPR, European privacy regulations.
Okay.
And that tracks companies that were in infringement. And sometimes because the security or a data privacy policy and other types of security policy were inadequate, that resulted in a fine. When something happens, you need to disclose it, and you have 48, depending, sometimes 48, sometimes 72 hours to disclose that something happened. And then you have to say, what have you done to mitigate and what have you done to prevent it before it happened? But as you can see, it's very heavy financial risk that can happen. But the interesting thing is, things like that happen to government organizations, to a retailer, Uniqlo in this case, if you're probably familiar with the brand, a finance company, the name is not disclosed, a finance company, 336,000 euros, 170,000 euros, and a dentist, 5,000 euros. So it can be even a very small company. So anyone could be hit by that. And the fact that you get a fine does not absolve you from the fact that you have some gaps in your security. And in many cases, the gaps are because people really don't even know where everything is and what needs to be secured.
Is that free, that one?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So we're talking a lot about security technologies and products. Interestingly, most of the security products, they're handling, I would say technical issues, for lack of a better term, and what we call findings. And it could be findings with regards to the network, to source code, to various other aspects of our infrastructure and other types of technologies. But what's missing here is what is the context? How is that relevant to the business? And actually, if you ask even CIOs, and it could be very large banks, or it could be a sub $100 companies, how does all your architectures look like? How does the business run? They would refer you to collections of documents, but it's not surprising, and you can check that with your own organizations, with colleagues. No one has a clear view of everything. It's an interesting challenge that existed for many, many years. And I was talking about digital transformation, and a lot of people are hearing this buzzword, digital transformation. If you ask CISOs, what are your top priorities today? You will hear we need to continue our digital or start our digital transformation. We need to improve our security measures. We need to deal with AI on multiple levels. And we need to look at personal responsibility that sometimes executives now starting to have, including even risk of imprisonment in some cases. And those things happen as well. But what does that mean? What is digital transformation? And this is what it means. It means that we now have many other teams that did not exist years ago. When I started working on CSPM, DevSecOps just started. So we had a shoot-off of ops or IT operations, and we called it DevOps, and because they knew how to deploy things in the data center, so they were fastly deploying things in the cloud, even though they're completely different approaches and technologies to do that. So that was DevOps, but since then, we have new teams, just this team, LittleOps, just started last year. We have, with the rise of AI, we now have a spin-off of DataOps in the form of AI and ML ops. So these are teams that have their own types of stacks, covering new types of technologies that we need together, more low level of engineering. But a lot of those technologies are also available to non-engineers. For example, the people in finance ops that need to run modeling and they want to use machine learning and AI to run their models, and they build a stack for integration into their finance ops stack of products. The biggest example is RevOps. And I don't know how many of you even heard about RevOps until about 2-3 years ago. Why we started hearing about RevOps? Because part of the digital transformation was the change in how sales is operating. We used to have a VP of sales, someone leading sales, marketing, separate person, and customer success. But the changes, and that created a loop, which those of you who work in sales know it sounds like it. Where are my leads? They're not good leads. They're not MQLs. We need better leads. We need to measure, we need to reduce churn, so we need to measure customers. A lot of requirements to improve the sales cycle. And part of it from the organizational perspective was to change that organizational structure. Have a chief revenue officer, and this person is responsible for marketing, sales, customer success, and they have less people because we have reduction in workforces, right? So less people, more responsibility, more in time, shorter cycles. How do you do that? More automation, sometimes outsourcing a lot of the technologies, more build out of stacks. And who's doing that? It's not engineering teams, it's other teams. If you look at the RevOps and you look at the tech stacks, these are all only some of the categories, but these are not products that you just go in, log into, do some work and go out. Those products work best or even only if they're interconnected with other products and they can provide a complete workflow. And what are those products that are being used? These are some examples that you see products that some of you might have used, or at least you know them. Airtable, easy to use spreadsheets that actually are databases, similar to Monday, similar to Notion, similar to Coda, similar to a couple of other Meetup and other products. Now they become full-fledged application development platforms. You can do a lot of things. And the same users who were using those systems, they're now building all those things, or they're using external consultants who know how to operate that. Zapier started as automation. I don't know how many of you know, but Zapier now has built-in databases and forms and applications and logic and a lot of other things. And they're moving to enterprise. Monday, similar to those two, as well as Smartsheet. Slack has a lot of automations built in. And I'm sure, like me and many of you also use Slack now as an alternative to what we used to do with SNMP. You track events, shoot it to a new channel, right? Many of us do that. And then you run automation to handle that in some ways. Okay, so we're doing it. We're all doing it. And how many of you would have thought of Stripe as a component of a building block that you can integrate into a stack and you don't have to be a developer? Anyone can do that. So people actually do that. If you look at analysis of G2, so they see a trend and they identify, yes, there is 27 million developers are going to be going from 24 or so, but it's going to be over 1 billion other people who develop things, but they're not doing it in the same way that you're doing. And on top of everything, AI. We already heard today, a few people talk about how AI is used to help us develop code. And in the future, we'll connect VS Code and we have some assistance there. We will describe, so the product managers in many ways will kind of be the owners in many ways of the engineering, some of the engineering pathways to get them into working applications. And now I have a deja vu moment, and this is actually a deja vu moment that I had a couple of years ago when we started with TV. This was taken from something I presented in 2017. I was reviewing products at that time with a company called Goal 9, we were acquired by Checkpoint because we were leading the market in CSPM. And I was talking about how the old networks now move into new architectures. And it's a deja vu moment because that is happening again. But the abstraction level, we move it up into more complex solutions on the low end, but be able to build those, but people with less training on the technical build out and in many cases, no need even for DevOps. However, there's actually DevOps also use a lot of those things. That are used for automation and other way. So let's say we want to do it ourselves. Well, I'm going to give some tips on how to handle all those networks. So one of the things that we can do, and some of you may be doing that, and sometimes you don't even have a choice. The auditor in the software found out some things, and now we need to document them. And we're an engineering team, and someone says, drop everything that you do. Now you have to spend some time, a week, I don't know, at least a few days, to document some things that someone who worked with the company 3 years ago has done, right? I don't know how many of you, if you have stories to share, please raise your hand. I'd love to hear those stories, but almost everyone who has worked in IT and engineering knows these stories. If you're in a good shape, you might have something that looks neat and nice, and not necessarily accurate, and maybe it was wishful thinking for the original design. Or you have some things that just people took some snapshots from the whiteboard brainstorming sessions. And then you have to take those things and you open up a spreadsheet and you add columns to whatever parameters that you or the security team needs in order to assess the risk. Because remember, risk is not just a list of CVEs with severity. Risk is complicated, needs to be complicated. It needs some logic and we need to have context. And we do that in a spreadsheet. And it's not fun. Okay, let's say we have a list of applications. Now, all we need to do is go into the application, understand or reverse engineer the logic. We don't know, we've never worked with this application. And then we'll figure it out. We'll figure out where the security settings and so on. But we have a problem. We don't even have access to these applications because who here has access to the CRM, right? Typically, the very limited list of individuals have access to some systems, or they don't want to buy a seat for us, or it was an initiative from a specific team or in a specific region. So we need to get credentials. We now have to chase them. In many cases, the team did not buy the right license because so they don't have even single sign-on and other features that we might need in the tool. And that leads to friction. A lot of the friction between those teams is the result of those changes. But this is why. This is the big story, the big picture. We have the technology leadership in the organization working with internal and external partners. External could be an MSP that provides some of the services for some of the things we talked about, or an agency that developed for their RevOps team to develop the whole stacks, integrations, and automations, and sometimes left their own credentials in those systems. And we have a breakdown of the three main pillars of successful technology operation. And if we look at their senior leadership, they're in a lot of stress. They're really in a lot of stress. If you look at what is expected from CIO, this is from the state of Washington, but it's difficult that they, at least they sign up with some of their job description or their team, is they need to understand how everything is working or what everyone is responsible for. It's part of their job. They might have gaps, but they need to have a plan on how to fill in those gaps. And the CISOs, in some cases, report to the CIO. Some cases, there's a CSO. We sort of in separation of being kind of separate, but they're worried that if they don't know and they haven't done everything that they can to take care of data security and report in time if something does happen, there'll be consequences to themselves. It's not, I don't think it's very far-fetched. In 2-3 years, it will be common, just like medical professionals. You have to have professional insurance. They will have to take care of professional insurance for themselves, or their firm will have to do that. So what do we do? How do we handle those things? So the journey to mapping is to understand the business architectures. It has 3 steps. The first step is EASD, or external attack surface detection. Let's start with figuring out from the outside, because normally attackers will be from the outside. Yes, we have internal threats, but let's talk about those separately. And we have different options. In some organizations, they already have deployed some tools that cover some of those requirements. For example, there could be specific attack surface detection products. Some products by name, there are quite a few big products: Tenable, ASM, CrowdStrike, Falcon, Cycognito. I'm sure you can find more. I just picked a list of a few that I know. And they have limitations, because what we want to detect is third party. And when I'm trying to detect third party, it's not enough to just know what I see on the surface. What are my domains and IP addresses and things from the outside? I need to know also who are the providers of some of the technologies. And they also can be expensive and difficult to figure out, because you come up with a lot of events that you need to rationalize. And it still doesn't help you with figuring out the architectures, just at least the tools. This is actually common with all of these methods, these manual methods. There's TPRM, third-party risk management products. How many are familiar with third-party risk management products? Right, so you know. So think about it. The vision is great. You, from the outside, they scan the whole internet, and any company that you want, they have insight on their technology and what are their third and fourth party providers, and so on and so forth. But it's not perfect. It has limitations. It has, first of all, it sees from the outside. If you're logging into, let's say, Splunk, for example, they will not see Splunk after the file, after the page, after the login. You just see from the marketing presence usually until you are redirected to the login page. Second is that they might have a lot, or usually have a lot of false positives. In some cases, up to 30 or 40%, especially if you try to make sense of the IP ranges footprint, because of CDNs, because of a lot of other reasons, accuracy of DNS scanning, and so on. So you should use TPRM. Technology intelligence. These tools are typically actually used by sales teams to figure out how to target customers. So they want to understand which companies use which product, so we can win them over, replace another product, or they're a good target for whatever we want to sell them. These, in best cases that I've seen, you get 50 to maybe 60% accuracy, and it's limited in the information that we can provide for you. ZoomInfo is very well known. AG Insights, demand-based Bombard, there's a bunch of others. It's not going to take you too far with that. Then we can use different types of what we call website analyzers, built with Webalizer, WhatRuns. These are a few. They're just analyzing the content of websites and show you elements, but usually it's a flat list. I will not go into the details there. And you can also do it yourself. Very small screenshot, but you can use it in the browser. Look at the connections that you're getting, network traffic, things like that. Collect the breadcrumbs and try to figure it out. Create some logic for the fingerprints that you find, but you still will not understand the architecture. You just see kind of pieces of what's going on there. So this is from the detection.
Talking about tax service management, but I think they're doing it all differently. Some are doing it in conjunction with pen testing services to a company. Their tax service management. When you talk about that last slide and your tax service management, how are you doing differently?
So I'm not, again, just like Javier, I'm not.
I know, that's how I understand. Yeah.
But
Afterwards and.
just being careful, I would say it's more important to focus on the important stuff than have a very long list of things that are probability of them having impact is important. I can tell you that for what we do is we put less emphasis on IP addresses and focus more on websites, domains, redirects, a lot of other things like that. But the important thing is break down the technologies and have intelligence about how the technologies themselves, not just the breadcrumbs, how they look like, but how typically those things are used inside an architecture.
because the context is what's really important here, and not just the fact that we find some artifacts
I need
on the
to talk
website.
to you. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect, thank you. That's what I need.
And just, shameless plug about AI, we use AI, I know it's a buzzword, but we do have, when you have a lot of what we call fingerprints, and you have a big collection, we call zoo. And in the zoo, we have fingerprints, and we analyze them with various parameters and use our own, trained model locally. We don't send it to the cloud, just to prioritize and align all the findings to vendors and specific things that these vendors using and how these combine into architecture. So the end is use a specialized tool, and again, we do that, but it's not for me just to teach what we do, but this is an example of a security company, and they were very certain about, they know everything, but they're just like any, in terms of IT, from the IT perspective, they don't know everything. So there's a lot of things that we discovered, some we verified, some things that were found. And the purpose here is not to cover all just the attack surface, it's just to have a starting point. So when you start building the architecture, it's not in a blank canvas. We have some knowledge even without doing integration and implementation. So the next step is collecting and basically digitizing the tech stacks. They're not yet stacks, they're just a list of technologies and some random documents that we're able to have. So if you have those things, usually it's in a PDF, someone created it at some point, you don't even have the source file, so you cannot just go in and edit it. And of course, this is a static page. In many cases, when you see things like that and you do have access to the system where it's posted, it could be a Figma file, a Miro file, a UC chart, what have you. But again, it's just like a diagram, and this tool is usually a general purpose tool. It's not designed specifically for security architecture. So, but it's a good start. So you can take all these things, and then you can build an architecture, assuming that you know how to do that. But how would you know if you're in the GRC team and you want to understand the context? How would you know what the architecture looks like? So one other interesting thing that we have observed: how many security products that you know of give any value to the operators? We don't like calling them users, we call them operators, but to the people who actually work on non-tech, non-IT products in the organization. Usually security products don't give any value other than maybe if it's on the endpoint, we pop a message that you have to do something, but it doesn't give you any other value specific to your work. And I think this is part of the challenge. And this is why people are not kind of thrilled about security products. So what we realized that if you actually give the operators some value, a tool, some technology to manage their architectures, and they can see things that are relevant for them, it will reduce the friction, give them value, and they actually will make sense for this stuff for you because they get something out of it themselves.
Which one is your diagram?
Yeah, this is what you can do with on-the-shelf tools. It's not even our tool.
Okay.
But this, we just kind of, this is my next,
Okay,
this is my draw.
all right.
Okay. So, and again, we don't have markers of our product, but this is the kind of experience that you can have with our system. So instead of those of you who know Bluetooth, for example, you can go with a domain, we give you a list of technologies, some of them, okay, jQuery, Django, type fonts, I don't know, all sorts of things that either you think they're silly that they're there, or they don't cohese into any kind of an architecture. But if you can see that this is the domain, and there's a subdomain that got permission, and there's issues with those type of permissions, and this is the support dot something, and it's from Zendesk, and it could be forum dot something from another type of technology that someone manages in the organization, but you have to chase who is doing that, and where was the project. In some cases, multinational organizations have UK dot something or Japan dot something. You have subsidiaries that do things. And what happens when you have an acquisition? How many of you have been involved in an acquisition and really enjoyed the 2-3 years that you need to map everything, do the due diligence, the migration. It's not fun, but there are some ways to make it a little less terrible. So you can see some of the technologies and some of the interesting highlights. Then you might have something like Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. Okay, that's nice. Most people will just ignore it. It's kind of the thing that we always have. We trust Google, not a problem. But this thing is connected to something else. It's not in a vacuum. It's just like decoration on your website. It collects information. Someone set it up, and many websites have so much data collected that it's not structurally analyzed and managed. I've seen portals inside websites that are used for no-code build-up of applications that the most excessive traffic from them is going to Stripe. I don't know why, and it's not like the transaction website. It's kind of operational pages inside the application itself. So I'm not saying that Stripe shouldn't do those things, but there's a lot going on. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Google Tag Manager. If anyone has experience, can you please raise your hand? So we're a security community, and no one in this room, unless you're shy and want to share, but knows what Tag Manager is. Would you be surprised if I tell you the Tag Manager has a marketplace? When you look at the Tag Manager in the website, the evidence, you just see a little tag that is the name is a bit misleading, but you see a snippet of code and some identifier to the Tag Manager. But this is managed on the Google account. And what can happen is when this is running, there's other pieces of code that could be injected into the session, and they actually use a marketplace with about 1,100 pieces of code, and anyone can add custom code that could be injected directly and executed on triggers of events in the website.
Is Tag Manager the only way in, or can you just help people with this structure? And it's up to them to buy all the software components in it, right? You just provide the structure.
We provide the structure to just see what they have, right? They don't know what they have in one place. They can talk to different teams, and maybe everything is documented, but maybe the person who documented it left 6 months ago and didn't share all the knowledge, right?
Right.
Someone in the marketing team might know the Tag Manager, probably knows the Tag Manager is connected to Google Analytics and Google Ad Accounts, but in many cases, not even the marketing team. So if you have the chief marketing officer or someone in marketing operations, they'll tell you, oh, it's the marketing agency that we work with. They give them all the permissions. By the way, finance teams also give permissions very easily to integrate with different tools, right? So yeah, you're not surprised, right? You've seen that, right? So these things happen. And we mapped around 25 different operational teams, and each have their own stacks. So this is just one example. It's not a team stack. We're just showing a website and how things are connected. And this is even we can solve a lot of those things even without interjecting, because we predict how things are integrated by understanding the deep intelligence into different products. And what does that mean? Here's a couple of examples. One of the things that you can see, this is an application called Apollo. How many of you know Apollo.io? Anyone in sales or marketing? Okay, Apollo is used for enrichment and engagement with customers. Extremely, extremely important. And many organizations are moving, in addition to Zoom Info, which was kind of the standard, also using Apollo to do that. Just a little thing about Apollo. They have, how many of you are familiar with sub-processors and the disclosure of sub-processors? So sub-processors are provided that an organization must disclose. They could hold data. They need to provide this information as part of closing a deal. This is really important. And CISOs just spend a lot of time chasing and filling out questionnaires. They do have, they do have sub-processors list. It's icons here, but trust me when I'm sharing this. They disclose about 8, and we just discovering it's not even at the customer side, just from the supply chain perspective, over 20 additional providers. They do, by definition, by what they actually do, they hold customer information. They're not used for other things. One of the other things that we can show is, for example, prediction. This is even without giving us permission into OAuth audit, for example. But we can predict if people are connected, and obviously people are connected. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen this product footprint on the website. These are the scopes and these are permissions that you can have an exposure with. So a lot of the work can be done even before you go into the integration. When you do integrations, then we can go deeper into many other products. One of the other interesting things that we do 2 years ago, before OpenAI ChatGPT were in the public or became publicly available, we saw that there's changes in AI, but we realized it's also it's a big problem of supply chain. So what we did is analyzing companies or solutions and what we call building blocks that use AI technologies and unpack them into the core AI technologies that are used in their supply chains. I talked about sub-processors. OpenAI, for example, only disclosed 5 sub-processors. 3 of them are their own subsidiaries because they have a very complex legal structure. And they don't disclose, for example, for those of you who know how AI works, they don't disclose that the labeling that they use is done by Scale.io. And another provider is doing inference. And another provider provides a vector database to store data. And there's 17 different AI building block categories that we map across 144 companies. And with each of those, we have the security factors. So the outcome of this is that you can get an inventory of AI and how it's actually being used. Because if today the CIO or the CTO gives a task, you see all the how do we use AI in the organization, there's no one person that can provide that list. So it's not necessarily that what we do is perfect and not necessarily the only tool. So you can try and do that yourself as well, but it's just easier to have a purpose-built solution. And other things that are useful with a system like that, and again, I'm sorry for giving us as an example, you can do things like that if you don't have the budget and you want to do it in a graphical application, you can do that. But one of the things that I recommend is also to include the security tools that provide the overlay of the security to the architectures. For example, if we have here a VPC on Amazon, and we have a few tools, this is a simplification of the VPC in the account. And we have deployed here a few solutions that are no-code tools. These are open source, by the way, and excellent. If anyone is looking for open source tools and you want recommendations and you love no-code, just reach out, connect with me. We know a ton of them. And so these are deployed here. And it's also important to include CSPM, in that case, Oracle Security, so we have oversight of what is being used in the VPC. So in some ways, it's just like the technical, not like the view of the VPC through security groups, which is kind of the network view of that, but actually part of the business logic. And this could expand. We can include other components here if you want to build or recreate for DevOps purposes the cloud infrastructure architecture. And other things, like for example, cloud need to have security for at the connection level or the resource protection and so on. You would want to map all the services to get the service from Cloudflare and Bot or whatever other things that is embedded there. If something is missing, you can figure it in the policy, then you'll see that you don't have that. But this type of documentation, whether you do it manually, the approach is solid. That is extremely important. And the third step is the deep internal analysis and then the process creation. So everything that I've shown previously, you can, it didn't even require to do the deep integration. That's the next step that we recommend. So this is preparation with architectures. The next step, you want to connect with different tools, and so you can get the insights and also validate some of the predictions about how the architecture looks like. Here are some technologies that you can use. SSPM stands for SaaS Security Posture Management. So these basically what they do is connect to an IDP or Google Workspace, Entra, sometimes Okta, and so on, and then get the permissions and the scopes. Specifically, Google Workspace or Entra will see the scopes of access that different tools are getting. Interestingly, what you will see also, these are some representatives, Checkpoint, CloudGuard, Obsidian, Security, Omni, there's a couple of other companies. Interestingly, out of that category, some are trying to create a new category of identity or non-human identity authorization. And these solutions try to enumerate all the service accounts and not just users. Because for users, you can apply two-factor authentication with service accounts, a bit trickier to do that. So that's an interesting thing that's happening in the last year. And CASB are brokers to a single point of access to multiple SaaS solutions. Usually they don't have deep coverage, but they're very popular. Netscope is a big one. Pantheon, but there are a few others as well. And identity management, these are the classical Entra, Okta, OneDrive, Google Workspace. These are, you can audit, you can just go into those systems in the console and try to do it yourself. And this part of the work that you need to do is here. And a lot of it is you don't have a specialized tool. Either you connect and get a feed of some of those tools so you can start building those architectures. Of course, you just have blacklist that is verified, but still a lot of the work has to be done on there. For us, the next step is just to help with that session. So once you see architectures and tools and criticality of different tools, then we recommend let's connect to what we call super connectors. One of those systems that are usually connected to many other types of tools and applications. Each one you can get a list of what gets permissions, and then you can prioritize what you want to get additional permissions to the things that are connected to that specific technology. And again, this is kind of a simplification of what you will end up with. Or you can, in some cases, you want to start, or at least ask the product team to provide something like that. So we have what we call a business application stack. It's the content security subscription application. These are the building blocks. We need to have a function, what each of those things is doing in the context of that specific stack. Because an Airtable base could be used for one thing in one stack, for a different thing in another stack. And you will many times see people pulling data from a CRM into something like an Airtable, and then someone else say, "Oh, this is great data. The sales team doesn't want me to get this information. I have a project. I'll go and get this information," or accidentally get access to everyone's salaries. And we've seen cases like that as well with HR teams taking here. And these products also are connected to data layers, and there we want to make sure that once we have that map, then we can get relevant information to help us make decisions. There's a critical event, something happened with that vendor. We know the context of what is connected. So when we have the disaster recovery plan, we know how to prioritize, who to talk to, who's the owner of each stack or each process. And of course, if someone is not the owner because they left the organization, we will know that we need to assign someone else. And of course, AI, which is another layer, different specific use cases relevant to how to efficiently run an AI policy, and not just, oh, legal does not allow us to use conversation, annotation, or transcription because we don't know if it's reliable or it's safe. Now you can, when you have the context, you can do that. On the other opposite side, you have the director got an email from legal and to agree that they review the security policy and they just signed it, they did it, and they just let people use what they want, and all those things happen. So I'll skip all that.
Right, go to the before and after.
Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of a summary of what we are focusing on. And although we have our own product, but it's very important to understand the concept and prioritize the project and mapping. Some of it might require more work, but it will guarantee that if you put that into a program, your operation will be more efficient. If you also are able to encourage collaboration, so the actual ops teams, different ops teams, whatever they may be, share the information with you, it's going to reduce friction for you.
How long does it take you to set this up?
Depending on the complexity, the size of the footprint, But usually, for simple, relatively simple things happen. Yes.
And if somebody's wrapped up in a breach and you have to do all the reporting on that, how long does that take you to kind of? get
Again,
the-
because it's a
that
large
right?
bank with a lot of moving parts.
Of course,
it might take longer. But most organizations for under 700 users, I would say, a day.
You service small business? Or just
We
enterprise?
we can service small business as well, but for that, it's opportunistic, if someone wants, but usually we can do that directly and then we do that through partners. Good, questions? Comments, suggestions, anything that you would like to see, because we move really fast. And,
Sorry, no.
It's like from a very, very high level.
Yeah.
What, oh, sorry, just like from a very, very high level. What would you call what you're doing here?
So we call it business applications governance. And the idea is that we have those stacks. These are real business applications and someone is managing them. And the whole process of managing is the governance of it. Some people have starts from governance because the process of governance, it's not related to how governments run, but it's similar in many ways. Because governance as part of the GRC programs is very unpleasant experience of chasing people, managing documents, chasing vendors for questionnaires about security. It wasn't pleasant. So people had kind of bad experiences. We want to change that and make that a much more pleasant.
So in the Gartner, or you're in the Gartner?
We're not in the Gartner because there's no specific category. So if
That's what I
you
was gonna ask.
Venn diagram, they're in the center, some things that we might overlap with, but this has existed as a challenge for decades. And we decided that we can do something about it.
Business service governance.
Business applications governance, yeah.
Business app-
That, some people said it's easier to remember as that.
So to draw an analogy, for other areas, I'm curious, where else do we see kind of reconstructed digital twin?
Yeah.
Right, so people are going in and trying to optimize, materials flow in warehouse, they're on the digital camera, they're gonna take a look and see what existing services show up in there and say, hey, let's move a conveyor belt over here. Or look at an assembly line, this kind of reconstruction happens. Process mining happens. If you look at insurance claims, you come up with a consulting agency, and they'll try to build a map like this of what the humans are doing in the organization. But I also just wonder if you've seen anything else like this that provides a metaphor from software, because
Yeah.
the issue of going from source code back to diagrams is one that's getting a lot of fresh looks thanks to AI and code understanding at large scale.
Mhm.
But you know, if your question was like essentially network mapping is still probably the only thing I can see that's kind of like this, just
Or
endpoint discovery, device discovery, and then trying to build some kind of rational map out of what's been found in the traces. But what else have you found that, even if to the degree, A, any of those analogies accurate to what you're looking at, and B,
Yes.
what are some other analogies?
You're accurate, and then usually you ask, can you also connect it to that? And these are things we thought about. So for example, CMDB is not fun. So you have inventory, endpoint devices, things like that. If you can expand the policy and we build it in the architecture that you can identify data types and what we call building blocks and elements, it's not limited, and we can add different type of pieces. So for example, you can create a policy and say, okay, these are public facing and it can be anyone, but you can say, I will block certain countries in some cases, or I would say this is only accessible to people from certain type of devices or from certain groups in the IAM system. So this could be extended in different ways. One of the other things that someone has asked us, hey, can I add some Amazon services? Because I have stuff, but in the VPC, I don't want to include all the VPC. But I just want to add this service also uses MS3 buckets to store files. It's very common to connect those other things with other things. Or there's an insurance company and they have a broker application and they need to do the actuary calculation and they want to run cloud functions, they want to run a Lambda to just do those calculations. So it kind of makes sense, and then you can have a reference to this VPC, so you can double click, and if you have a tool to visualize the network, you will see that. But if you look at the classical network, it's an enigma because you see IP to IP or service. Who is the service? Everything is in 80 or 443, right? So you have to simplify. So this is another way. So you can add those components. Any component, if you search for a technology and it's not there, we will add that. We prioritize what kind of insights you can add to this technology.
So, this is kind of interesting, in a way, I kind of think of this as, mapping architectures to infrastructures. Or blueprinting,
Yeah.
Very similar to the ServiceNows.
Yeah.
Are they kind of moving into that space? I mean, because they've been in there, in information, so I kind of understand the road of evolving, but
If they
at
are
the same
doing
time,
that.
I've never heard of. I've heard
Not-
business service automation, but not
Not
business.
in this way, but I can tell you that ServiceNow itself described themselves starting in 2022, that 20% of their deals and all their top 50 deals, including what they call no code. So their idea is to create forms, right? And then you have to find developers who will do that. But that's a different kind of ServiceNow discussion. And they have workflows for onboarding and offboarding users and a couple of other types of use cases. For us, this can connect to ServiceNow. So actually we can help ServiceNow. And on a technical level, it's think ServiceNow is a company, something I understood about them as well. It's they're not doing or anyone else that we know of something that is similar to this.
No. Okay.
Last question.
Sure, yeah, no, no, I'm saying I love that it's live and I was just, I said your vision for this is making it two ways. So once you have that, you can edit it or break a link, or I said something, it's like, hey, there's an approved vendor X, let's cut them out of these things, cut early. Where do you stand currently on kind of the round trip, or where does this right back? Where would you like it to go?
So this goes in different ways, and sometimes it's unexpected. And of course, we also want to have a roadmap. How will we continue? We haven't done everything and anything that we can think of. Some unexpected things that we got asked for just came back from RSA. Financial institutions were reached out by this very, very senior people with the red teams. I wouldn't expect that because it's a red team. They do pen tests, they flag vulnerabilities, they do the mapping, but they said that this is perfect for us because we don't know what's important. We have too many findings. This helps us. So it's not just an Apache server somewhere, but it's an Apache server on the forum system that we get from a third party, and it's a subdomain that we use. Then we know that we can prioritize the attack modeling on that, or if we have a finding, we can attach a context to it. Just,
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
right? Thank you. Thank you. Want to connect with me? I'll be happy.
You have a business card?
I don't, I'm sorry, but we can connect. All right. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out tonight, and thank you for supporting, and please, if you can clean up after yourself, I will really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the 11th. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.